A royal scandal explodes as Queen Camilla's infamous affair with King Charles resurfaces, dragging her back into public disgrace. A leaked call once buried now dominates headlines, exposing royal betrayal and reigniting decades-old outrage. The ground trembles under renewed scrutiny, and Camilla stands at the center of a storm she can't escape. Explosive revelation shakes the crown. The past has returned, and it's more brutal than ever. In a moment that no one in the palace saw coming, a decades-old scandal has come roaring back, threatening to unravel everything. Queen Camilla has spent years carefully rebuilding what was once whisper and scandalous circles has now exploded into the mainstream. The affair that defined an era and destroyed a marriage has resurfaced in the most humiliating way imaginable. It began with the release of a recording long thought buried in tabloid archives, the infamous raw and wildly inappropriate phone call between then Prince Charles and Camilla Parker Bowles. Dubbed the tampon tape by the press in 1993, the conversation was once the subject of gossip and ridicule, but now, decades later, it has returned with a vengeance, blasted across social media, podcasts, news channels, and YouTube commentary videos, fueling a fresh wave of public outrage. The intimate nature of the call is what makes it so devastating. It's crude, emotional, and painfully revealing, laying bare not only the affair with the royal obsession that fueled it even while Charles was married to Diana. The recording's graphic tone, laughed off by some at the time as a private joke, has aged horribly in an era of emotional awareness and public accountability. What was once tabloid fodder now feels like a glaring stain on the dignity of the monarchy. For Queen Camilla, the impact has been catastrophic. Her image, which took years to rehabilitate through charity work, loyal appearances, and carefully managed press, is now under siege. The League has triggered a public reckoning, not just about the affair, but about what it represented, and what it says about the institution that shielded her. Inside Buckingham Palace there is reported chaos. Press officers scrambling, aides cancelling events, and senior royals distancing themselves from the firestorm. No official statement has been issued. A source close to the palace confirmed that crisis talks have been underway since the recording began trending globally. The public reaction has been swift and unforgiving. People aren't just outraged, they feel betrayed all over again. Especially those who remember Diana's pain, her pleas for dignity, and the devastation that followed her televised interviews. To them, this isn't just history repeating its truth that was never truly reckoned with. And just like that, the crown finds itself back in the shadow of a scandal it thought was long buried. But this time the shame isn't private, it's public, it's viral, and it's shaking the monarchy to its core. From private joke to public shame, what was once whispered behind closed doors is now blazing across every screen in Britain. The infamous tampon conversation, once dismissed as an embarrassing, outdated relic, has been reborn as a symbol of everything wrong with how the royal family handled its darkest chapter. Back in the early 1990s, the recording of Charles and Camilla's intimate phone call was dismissed by loyalists as nothing more than an unfortunately a youthful mistake, a moment of indiscretion. But today, in the harsh light of 2020's media scrutiny and evolving social values, the same exchange reads very differently, and for Camilla it has become a public humiliation of epic proportions. The content of the call, deeply personal and disturbingly graphic, now feels less like flirtation and more like betrayal. Not just to Diana, but to the British public, who were misled, placated, and told to move on as the years passed. The right tone of the exchange has reignited questions not only about the affair itself, but about Camilla, his judgment, and her fitness to represent the monarchy as queen consort. Clips of the call have gone viral on every major platform. Edited with dramatic music overlaid with images of Diana's tearful interviews, the story has taken on a life of its own. Influencers, podcast hosts, and media personalities have all weighed in, not just mocking the call but questioning how Camilla ever became queen in the first place. For younger generations who weren't alive when the scandal first broke, this is their introduction to Camilla's past. And it's not a flattering one to them. The monarchy appears hypocritical, out of touch, and built on privilege that evades real accountability. To older generations, it's a painful reminder of what Diana endured, and how quickly her truth was buried beneath polished royal PR. Even defenders of the monarchy are struggling to spin it. The idea of excusing the call as a private joke between lovers falls flat in a world that demands transparency and integrity. This isn't just bad optics, it's an ethical mess. And as the fire spreads, palisades have reportedly been told to avoid the topic altogether, hoping silence will calm the storm. But that silence has become its own message, a signal to the public that the Crown is either ashamed or indifferent, neither of which restores trust. The scandal is no longer just about an affair, it's about what was tolerated, what was excused, and what was never truly made right. And Queen Camilla now finds herself not only mocked but questioned, not just by critics, but by history. Camilla, his public image cracks. For years, Queen Camilla, his public image, was a carefully orchestrated rehabilitation, a long, slow journey from mistress to monarch, built brick by brick through charitable work, quiet loyalty, and royal discretion. But now, in a matter of days, that image is crumbling, and this time, it may be beyond repair. The resurgence of the affair tapes has reopened old wounds the monarchy worked so hard to seal. Public opinion has shifted sharply, and Camilla, who once enjoyed cautious respect, is now back in the role she fought to escape. The other woman. Charity appearances that once painted her as compassionate now feel calculated. Interviews that once cast her as shy and misunderstood are being really watched with fresh skepticism. Was it all a PR strategy? That's the question echoing across headlines and social feeds. Critics argue that Camilla didn't redeem herself, she waited out the outrage until the world forgot. But the world hasn't forgotten. Outside the palace, the backlash is brutal. Inside, its ice-cold royal aides are reportedly scaling down Camilla's visibility, quietly pulling her from key events and shielding her from press opportunities. Even among her longtime defenders, there's hesitation, or silence in the face of renewed scandal is beginning to look like guilt, or worse, indifference. What's more damaging is the shift in tone from the public itself. Camilla is no longer just controversial, she's becoming divisive. Or presence at royal functions now draws unease, not admiration. Crowds that once offered polite applause meet her with uncomfortable silence. Supporters grow quiet, loyalists look away, and perhaps most telling, the press, the same institution that once rallied to help shape a softer image, has turned on her. Front pages no longer speak of duty and dignity. Instead, they recycle the old headlines: the affair, the betrayal, the humiliation. Camilla, his name is once again linked not with her charities, but with the destruction of Diana's marriage. It's 1993 all over again. Only this time the internet is watching, and no amount of time, title, or tradition can cover the cracks now forming, because public redemption once earned can just as easily be lost. Princess Diana's voice echoes as Camilla, his name, is dragged through scandal once more. A different name is rising louder than ever. Diana, the late Princess of Wales, once accused of destabilizing the monarchy with her raw honesty, now feels like the only royal voice that told the truth. And the public is listening. Across social media, her old interviews are going viral again. Clips from her now iconic 1995 Panorama interview, "There were three of us in this marriage, so it was a bit crowded," have resurfaced with chilling relevance. Paired alongside the leaked Camilla tapes, they strike like thunder. The pain in Diana's voice, the courage in her words, the warning she gave, all of it now rings louder than ever. The internet has become a living tribute to her truth. TikTok accounts flood timelines with side-by-side footage: Diana in tears, Camilla in whispers. Twitter threads recount Diana's lonely battles within the palace, her efforts to protect her sons, her gradual unraveling under a system that seemed to close ranks against her. And now, nearly 3 decades later, her pain is being validated all over again. Camilla's scandal isn't just being measured against public decency, it's being judged in contrast to Diana's enduring grace. Diana was the victim, Camilla, because that's the story being read, told, reassured, and we believed. Diana's confrontation with Camilla, a once private moment turned public legend, now reads as the most iconic reckoning in royal history. Her legacy was built on empathy and vulnerability, not power, and in this moment her moral authority towers over everyone else. Even those who once felt the monarchy had moved on from the Charles-Camilla-Diana triangle are now rethinking it. Diana's warnings weren't bitter, they were prophetic, and the emotional depth she brought to the role of Princess of Wales now makes Camilla's reign feel hollow in comparison. Inside the palace, this resurgence of Diana's legacy is reportedly causing deep discomfort. There's no way to silence the past when it's echoing louder than the present. And it's a reminder to the from that legacy is not about who holds the title, it's about who held the truth. Diana may be gone, but her story is alive and growing stronger with every passing day of Camilla's silence. And in the eyes of the public Tamil, his downfall isn't just her own, it's the final validation of the woman the monarchy failed to protect. Royal household faces scrutiny. As the scandal deepens, the spotlight shifts from Camilla to the institution that protected her. The royal household itself is now under fire, accused of shielding a love affair while turning its back on the woman it should have defended, Princess Diana. The public's anger is no longer just personal, it's systemic. Social media and press commentators have begun asking difficult, long-avoided questions. Why was Camilla, his image, so aggressively polished over the years, while Diana, despite her global popularity, was left isolated in her final years? How did the monarchy manage to rehabilitate the or a relationship that destroyed its most beloved marriage? And perhaps most pointedly, who within the palace press machine allowed this narrative to be rewritten so cleanly? For years, palace officials worked tirelessly to refrain Camilla's story from mistress to misunderstood companion, from scandal to stability. Carefully selected charity events, warm editorial profiles, and well-timed public appearances helped to construct the image of a reformed woman deserving of her crown. But with the re-emergence of the affair tapes, that image now looks manufactured, if not completely manipulative. Behind closed doors, the palace is said to be rattled. Senior aides are scrambling to control the damage, but the internet is faster than the royal press office. What took decades to rebuild has been ripped apart in a matter of days, and trust in the monarchy's messaging is crumbling fast. Public sympathy has turned to suspicion. What else has been hidden? What other truths have been softened or covered up to preserve royal appearances? Camilla's relationship with the media, once seen as a success story of royal rehabilitation, is now being painted by critics as a lesson in how powerful institutions rewrite history to protect themselves. The silence from Buckingham Palace is deafening. No statement, no denial, not even a defense. That silence is beginning to look less like dignity and more like damage control. Meanwhile, Diana's defenders have become bolder. Royal historians, former staffers, and insiders are breaking their own silence, giving interviews and releasing memoir quotes that further expose how alone Diana truly was, and how determined the palace was to maintain the facade. The crown, which once held the power to define the public narrative, now finds itself at the mercy of public memory, and that memory is sharp, emotional, and unforgiving. In this battle between truth and legacy, the royal household faces its most uncomfortable reckoning yet, not over what it did, but over what it let happen. Camilla's affair timeline reopens. The past has never felt more present. As Queen Camilla, his affair with Charles dominates headlines again, the timeline of their relationship is being re-examined with fresh fury. And this time it's being told from Diana's side. For years, royal loyalists tried to downplay the affair's timeline, suggesting Camilla and Charles only did seriously after his marriage had broken down, but the facts tell a far murkier story, one that starts while Diana and Charles were still married and very much in the public eye. According to royal biographers and Diana herself, the affair began as early as 1984, when Prince William was still a toddler. Charles and Camilla, his emotional entanglement never truly ended even after Charles married Diana in 1981. Palace insiders at the time pointedly knew about their ongoing closeness but chose to look the other way. By 1986, the relationship had reportedly resumed physically, even as Diana was still appearing in public beside her husband. The 1993 leak of the now infamous phone call confirmed what many had already suspected. This wasn't speculation. It was reality, and now 3 decades later, the timeline is no longer just historical, it's damning. Camilla defenders once called the affair complex or misunderstood, a product of a loveless royal marriage. But those excuses no longer hold weight in the court of public opinion. The affair was not just adultery, it was an orchestrated betrayal of a young woman thrown into a royal machine she could never control. The resurfaced timeline has reignited calls to reevaluate Camilla, his place in royal history. Or eventual marriage to Charles in 2005, once seen as the natural next step in a long relationship, is now viewed by some as a reward for infidelity. That image, once softened by time and PR, is hardening again. And it's unforgiving. People are asking, how did someone so central to Diana's pain become queen? How did the monarchy allow this version of events to become acceptable? The re-examination of this timeline has triggered a wider cultural conversation, not just about Camilla. What about the cost of silence, the power of media spin, and the emotional toll placed on women like Diana? What was once whispered as scandal has become a public indictment of royal integrity. Camilla timeline, no longer tucked away in dusty biographies, is now viral content shared, dissected, and raged over by millions. The affair is no longer history. It's the story of a crown built on compromise and a legacy that may never fully escape it. Charles's role re-examined. As Queen Camilla, his past explodes back into public view. King Charles is no longer standing in the background. The scandal that began with a leaked call is now pulling the monarch himself into the spotlight, and not in the way the palace hoped. For years, Charles managed to escape the full weight of public criticism for the affair. His image had been softened by time, repackaged through decades of environmental work, charitable foundations, and a more measured grandfatherly persona. But now, with the graphic details of his secret conversations with Camilla back in the public eye, the king's complicity is being judged with fresh perspective and far less forgiveness. The leaked recording doesn't just expose Camilla's side of the affair. It lays bare Charles' full emotional investment in the relationship while still married to Diana. The tone of the call, intimate, reckless, and shockingly vulgar, doesn't sound like a man caught in a marriage he couldn't escape. It sounds like a man actively choosing betrayal. Public trust in the monarch is showing signs of erosion. Polls taken in the days following the scandal's resurgence reveal a dip in Charles' favorability rating, and while royal traditionalists try to defend him as a man who followed his heart, younger generations aren't as forgiving to them. This isn't just a personal feeling, it's a leadership crisis, one rooted in deception and a lack of accountability. Commentators have pointed to Charles' long silence after Diana's death as the first red flag. While Diana gave interviews, wrote memoirs, and openly shared her truth, Charles remained largely quiet, controlled, distant, and shielded by royal machinery. That silence, once seen as restraint, is now being viewed as avoidance. And today, as the scandal explodes again, the king's silence is back, and it's louder than ever. The pressure is building inside royal circles. There are reports of senior advisors urging Charles to issue a public acknowledgement or express regret, not to relive the past, but to preserve the future. Yet so far he remained silent, allowing Camilla to shoulder the storm alone. That choice is now raising a critical question. If the king won't speak now, when will he ever? Critics are already drawing uncomfortable comparisons between Charles, his public image, and that of his late ex-wife Diana. Was vulnerable, emotional, brutally honest. Charles, even now, seems tightly bound by protocol and pride. It's a contrast that cut deeply, and one that many believe will define how his reign is remembered. This isn't just about a past affair anymore. It's about character. And the crown now sits heavy on a king whose silence speaks volumes. Media eruption and public reactions. The royal scandal has gone from shocking to seismic. What began as a leaked recording has now turned into a cultural moment, consuming headlines across the globe and igniting an online firestorm that shows no sign of slowing down. The monarchy may still control the palace, but they no longer control the narrative. Television networks across the UK and beyond have turned the scandal into nightly specials. Talk show hosts dissect the timeline, news anchors recap the affair's history with damning commentary. Old footage of Diana is rerun with fresh intensity. The entire nation is living the betrayal frame by frame, word by word. But it's online where the anger is reaching a boiling point. TikTok, Instagram, Twitter, and YouTube have become battlegrounds. Trending hashtags like #TamponGate crashes, justice for Diana, and #unfit queen flood timelines. Thousands of users, many too young to remember the original scandal, are now fully invested. And they're not just angry at Camilla, they are furious at the system that elevated her. One viral video shows side-by-side clips of Diana consoling a young boy and Camilla laughing at a gala. The contrast is devastating, and it's racking up millions of views. Another added overlays Charles' call with Diana's most heartbreaking interview soundbite. The message is clear: this isn't just a scandal, it's an open wound. Public opinion is shifting fast. A recent online poll found Camilla favorability had dropped by more than 20% in just 5 days. Even more alarming for the palace younger generations, those who will ultimately decide the monarchy's future are overwhelmingly calling for Camilla to step down from frontline duties. The tone of the discourse is emotional, wrong, and intensely personal. People are sharing their memories of watching Diane's interviews as children, their shocked at the betrayal, and now their disbelief that Camilla was ever embraced by the